Thank you very much. We're going to start if people are still reaching your seats because we're talking about exercise. So if you're moving around, that's a good thing if you're moving around. Okay? And first off, let's have everybody just stretch their arms way up high. Just want to wake you up a little bit here, really high. Okay, that's a stretching exercise. All righty. We're going to do a little more exercise as we move along. We've kind of been sitting here this morning. So the role of exercise, somebody just told me when they started with Parkinson 15 years ago, their neurologist said, well, you can exercise, but it probably won't make a difference. But as you've learned today, we're learning more and more about the importance of exercise. David Spinney, a quote from him, I can't control that I have Parkinson's, but I can control how I live with Parkinson's. And I think exercise is probably the one thing that you can control. So this is not dependent on your neurologist or how, bright your physicians are. This has to do with you and your commitment to exercise. Now, for some of us, exercise is kind of not a word that we want to see, and we think about people sweating and we think, I don't want to do that. Now, there's other people out there who say exercise, and they're ready to start juggling, and they think this is the best thing in town. So, I don't know where you are on that spectrum, but we're going to hope to kind of move you along today to think about exercise as something that you can do and that you want to do. So let's be upfront about this self-talk that we all have. And the first part, I'm talking to everybody here, caregivers, everybody alike. We all say, I know I need to exercise, right? Then we say, my doctor tells me to exercise. And then we acknowledge that healthy people exercise. And then we say, but what? I don't have time. Exercise is not my thing. What else could we say?
We can figure it out later. We can just do it.
It's boring. Okay, what else? I'm too busy. The weather's not nice enough. We're here in Colorado, folks. We can't say that. So we have all of these things. So be thinking about your motivation and readiness to exercise, because that motivation is a big piece of whether you exercise or not. All right. So we're going to talk today a little bit about Healthy People 2010. So this applies to everyone. This was put together, what should healthy exercise look like, by the American Heart Association and the American Sports Association. So 4 elements that they talk about for everyone to do. Balance, okay? And balance has to do with anything when you're kind of standing on one foot, okay? So balance. So we all need to work on balance. The other thing we need to work on is stretching, okay? Everybody needs to do stretching. And what they talk about is 5 or 6 major muscle groups stretching at least 5 times a week, if not daily, okay, to keep yourself in shape. Strengthening, so some sort of progressive resistance exercise. It can be lifting your own body weight, as we do when we come from sit to stand. So we're lifting our body weight, and we push-ups, and we lifting up on our toes. That's what, or it can be weights, TheraBand, all kinds of other things. And the last piece, aerobics. Okay, so strengthening, I forgot to mention, 3 times a week. Okay, not every day, 3 times a week. Aerobics, 3 to 4 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes, getting your heart rate up. Okay, so that's our recommendation. We also know from studies that aerobic exercise helps maintain memory and a higher level of cognitive function. And there are also many studies that address the positive effects of exercise on chronic conditions, because you don't just have Parkinson's, okay? Most of us have some other disease as well. So when we look at our exercise program, we want to incorporate any other disease processes going on and what you need to do for that, okay? So if you have osteoporosis and you have Parkinson's, you may want to do a little bit different exercise than if you just have Parkinson's. All right? Okay. We've talked a little bit today about neuroprotection, neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability of the brain to rewire based on experience so that we can learn. So if we do something repetitively, we can learn how to do that. And on a biological basis, some of the studies with rodents that were talked about earlier today show that we can have some new brain paths. We can probably more importantly, new nerve pathways, collateral sprouting, Dr. Kumar talked about, which is some new nerve endings, and synaptogenesis, new connections. So those are the things that we're after in the brain. So a lot of these studies have been done on healthy populations, okay? Not necessarily those with Parkinson's disease. And a lot of work has been done with the rodents, as you learned about today, okay? Because we can look at their brains and see what they're doing. But we can then draw some conclusions, we feel, and there is more conclusions would have to do with that the high intensity forced exercise is what's needed for patients with Parkinson's disease. And there's much more research being done in California. They're doing a lot of research around this, actually with people with Parkinson's disease. Okay? We've done quite a bit of research on what's called forced use, making you really work at something, both with rodents and with people with stroke. So then we make some conclusions on those populations and apply it to other things like Parkinson's. Okay, so hopefully that should kind of get us on the road to talking a little more about Parkinson's itself. So, primary movement problems in Parkinson's. Bradykinesia, that slowness in movement. All right, we look around the room, we see that today. Rigidity or stiffness in motion. Postural problems. Often people with Parkinson's have a bit of stooped shoulders, maybe forward head. Common problems. Walking problems, so maybe shuffling steps, not as much arm swing. Balance issues, okay, we can see these often early on. Decreased ability to safely turn, all right? So when you're up walking, usually one foot's off the ground, right? When we're moving, that's where that balance comes in. Ability to walk backwards, ability to turn, stand on one foot. Resting tremor, another movement portion of Parkinson's. And that masked facial expression, right? Everybody raise your eyebrows for me. Really high, raise those eyebrows up. Okay, now a big smile from everybody out there. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay. And then, of course, breathing too is not on there, but of course it's a movement problem. So we know the problems. So what do those problems mean? I'm going to kind of talk about some areas. I like to explain that you've lost your automatic pilot, okay? It's how that you knew how to do these things. So before, reaching for this would just be easy. You'd know exactly where it was. You knew where you put it. You just reach for it. It'd be automatic. Okay? With Parkinson's disease, we tend to lose some of that automatic pilot that knows just how to stand up, to roll over, to reach for something and how far it's going to be without falling over. So we lose that. So we have to think about things. Okay? We have to think about it. We have difficulty activating movement sequences. So it's not too hard to think about straightening my arm. But when I have to think about how I'm going to get out of the chair, then I have to think about all those muscle groups involved and how am I going to get out of the chair. I've got to scoot to the front of the chair. I've got to lean forward and stand up. To roll over and get